hopefully you've had a chance to like get familiar a little bit. I know we've been wanting to make sure that we're opening up communication, and Stephanie, please feel free to jump in at any point, but we'd love to show you, just go through for framing for some of you who maybe have not seen it, just a really quick video of our welcome video to talk a little bit about what we're all going to be doing here together. And again, Heather just put the agenda into the chat.
Welcome to the Central Valley Networked Improvement Communities College Ready. As we begin to see the light of hope in putting the pandemic behind us, our students more than ever need our support in defining and navigating opportunities for success beyond high school. We applaud your willingness to invest in our youth as they navigate the new world of education, college, and work. TCOE has been funded by the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to facilitate a network for school improvement in our Central Valley focused on college readiness. We look forward to connecting Central Valley leaders, counselors, coaches, teachers, and expert partners to help students to spark their passions and create clear avenues to their post-secondary aspirations. We encourage curiosity about who your system is currently serving. We recognize that equity is the starting point, the through point, and the end point to which we aspire. We invite you to be bold in acknowledging when we don't have all the answers and courageous in our effort to innovate. We are excited to bring the participating schools together at our CVNIC College Ready Network launch on May 17th. Your voice matters. Please fill out the network survey to contribute to a successful launch. We look forward to seeing you on May 17th.
So not everyone on our team is here today. We do, of course, have our fearless leader, Stephanie Werners, our director of this effort. And as hopefully you know, or you will begin to know when we start to launch on in May, get some idea about these streams of work that we'll be working on. We have Alicia Ramirez as our equity faculty. I introduced myself already, as counseling is an important stream here in the work that we'll be moving forward with. And of course, our math content faculty on board here and our data folks. So we have a large team here trying to address our main goal of the network, which is to improve and focus on significantly increasing the number of Black, Latinx, and low-income students who are college ready on track as determined by acceptance into a four-year university with a six-year graduation rate of 50% or higher. So we have a number of years to start working on that, and a few really strong theories about how we're going to get there together and learn from each other. But just kind of to give you some background, and these are a lot of Tulare County statistics, but we know that we're all kind of in similar boats here across our region in the Central Valley. Just for some framing, while districts in Tulare County have graduation rates in line with state and sometimes even above, we're doing a great job graduating our students. We're just falling behind a little bit on UC and CSU requirements. So, you know, that obviously is a focus here. And what we've been able to identify is that math in particular can be a barrier and is challenging for students in completing that A through G requirement and being UC and CSU eligible. So that, of course, is an area of focus. And each time we get together, we're going to be looking at equity and access. Of course, math is another through line that is going to be something that we're really focused on. And then creating post-secondary options focused on acceptance to those four-year universities. So really looking at our post-secondary supports across the network. And who are we all gathering with? So if you didn't already know, we just want to make sure, like we had some introductions here today. I'm not sure everyone's on the call, but we have 4 counties coming together represented to do this work and move this work forward. We have Fowler High School, Mendota, Minarets, Gustine, Los Banos, and from Tulare County, Lindsay, Summit, Orosi, Granite Hills, and El Diamante, Golden West, Redwood, Mount Whitney, I missed up there, and Strathmore. So we have a wide variety of schools coming in, some large, some small, all working together toward this goal. And we will have a couple of different work streams as we move through over the project. But we do have our site leadership team, and then that we'll be launching this first year where we're really going to dig into systems. And then our academic teams will be, for math, will be coming on the following year. And there are a few of those center people, the counselors and coaches, who are those through lines between there. But as you'll see, if you are in fact the data person at your site, we consider you an integral part of this site leadership team, because really data is at the heart of what's going to be moving our work forward. And we're going to be doing, working on some data protocols. But this meeting is really to talk about how we're going to get the data and what those systems are going to be and what those necessary things are to move the work forward. But just to give you some idea of what our year one is going to look like next year, we will be launching in May, on May 17th. That's when we'll get together and kind of dig in a little deeper of what we're all here to do. And then we'll have 2 fall convenings and 2 spring convenings. And then again, like I mentioned, we'll be launching our academic improvement teams at the end of next year. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to Heather to talk about our data needs.
Javier, are you able to do this, or you want me? Can you talk?
Either way. Can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so sorry about being kind of splitting my attention at the moment. But hopefully you guys have had a nice intro to the network. We're here because we kind of get, even though the network doesn't necessarily kick off until May, there's a bunch of things that need to happen behind the scenes just to make sure that we're ready for those fall convenings, that we're ready for all of the efforts that are going to be taking place over the course of the next few years. And hopefully what we intend to do with this meeting is give you guys a brief overview of some of the things that we might be needing to do over the course of the next few weeks, and what we hope to have up and running. So there's 2 main components that we're going to be talking about here. For those folks who are in Tulare County, they're probably already familiar with the core dashboard and the uploading efforts that are required for that. But there's this other element that we'll just kind of put under the umbrella of Ed5, even though that's more of like a standard that we'll be addressing. Our partner in this is Education Analytics. They both build and support the core dashboard, and we'll be working to kind of link up with your district data systems to make sure that that Ed5 link is established, which will hopefully make some of the reporting requirements a lot less of a headache than they otherwise could be. So core is essentially like these original districts that out of which sprung this data system. There is a dashboard that showcases a bunch of different visuals. They hang their hat on a growth metric, which is a little different than the California school dashboard. Kind of gives us a different look about student progress. And we'll be using that data both as a way of kind of looking at growth, a way of looking at some of those reporting requirements, but also as kind of a check to what we're getting through Ed5. We'll also be kind of triangulating this data with the National Student Clearinghouse, and Ed Analytics is also supporting us in that. So hopefully that will be a little less intense than it, again, otherwise could be. If you go back to the files, the core dashboard basically has to be manually fed a bunch of files, most of which come from CalPads, the assessment data that comes from TOMS, and then there's some source files that go in as well. If this is unfamiliar, that's okay. Heather and I will at some point, once Ed Analytics has laid the groundwork, we'll basically set up a call Honestly, it takes about 30 minutes and you'll be like, oh, okay, that's it. Like that's not too hard. Basically, it's a matter of like downloading a certain number of files. The first time it's a little bit more than a few, just because we get a few years worth of data just for the sake of history. But we'll take those files. There's a secure landing spot that Analytics sets up. You upload those files there. They get sucked into the system, and a few days later, you have an instance of for your district on the dashboard. You can go ahead and skip ahead unless I left something out, Heather.
Oh, I would just say for our Tulare County partners, you've already taken care of this. You've been in core for a while now, so you'll just have to worry about the upcoming annual upload, but you've done your historical data.
EdFi is a little bit different in that it is essentially a standard by which data is shared. Obviously, we have 14 different sites here that span 10 different districts. Each of these districts probably has some overlapping data systems, but your student information system isn't necessarily common across all of you. Some of you guys use Aries, PowerSchool, maybe something else. There's all these different places that data is being generated and collected. And what EdFi tries to do is kind of set a standard so that when Ed Analytics meets with your data team, like basically these SISs and what Ed Analytics is expecting kind of look similar. So whether it's coming from PowerSchool or Aries or somewhere else, it's read correctly by the EdFi system, not by the EdFi system, by Ed Analytics system, using this common standard. So that requires a little bit of labor kind of on the front end, because we have to kind of meet with EA's team. They'll want to talk to your IT folks, they'll want to talk to your SIS folks, your data leads, and essentially just kind of build the pipeline, if you will. What the nice thing about that is once that pipeline is established, the reporting requirements on us, on you guys, become significantly less. Because now instead of having to do like these annual uploads, like there's this persistent link that can feed the system, which becomes really nice for the network, in that with 4 convenings each year, you're not getting harassed by us every few months saying like, hey, we need an upload because the fall convening 1 is coming up. Basically, it's already being fed into the system through the work that we do over the course of the next few weeks.
It looks like Kirk has a question.
Thanks. With regard just to the data, and this, I'm sure we could talk about this later, but you know, there was no CAS test in 2020, and the testing for 21 is going to be kind of across the board with regard to what LEAs are going to use at the secondary level. Not all districts will use the CAS. Some will use locals to meet the needs based upon the new guidance. So will there be a translation or an augmentation of that data, or will that just be vacant for 21 or 20 and 21?
So that's another nice thing about the EdFi system, is that they'll take in any local assessment that you guys are also using. So we're not just reliant on just purely the summative CASP assessments and get like a one time a year, but whatever it is that your site is using, whatever the district is using, that'll be fed in real time throughout the course of the year. So even if there is a hole, like last year's CASP testing, what's likely to happen with you know, some sort of limited, I don't know if you folks are going to have an easy time reaching like 100% of their students with, you know, this year's assessment requirements, but I'm just gonna kind of go out on a limb and say, like, let's just say you get like 80% of your students, or, you know, it's impacted just by the fact that it's a little bit tricky. That's not the only data we'll be relying upon. We'll be able to kind of augment it with whatever assessment is being done locally on an ongoing basis.
Thanks.
And related to core, it will just be absent. That's how it worked this past year. It's just that file doesn't exist, so you just don't upload it.
Right.
Core might ask for something different, but we haven't heard yet if they're going to go about that any differently than they did this year.
Thank you.
Thanks for the question. So this is a slide we put together to kind of try to give a picture of what the next couple of months could look like. So in the blue, you see kind of what's needed to set up the core dashboard. And in the pink, you see what's our best interpretation of what's needed for establishing that EdFi connection. On the core dashboard, it is very likely that your district already submitted the MOU to TCOE. We're getting those from Steph, so that, because the next step is ours. Basically, we submit a request to EA to kind of establish a landing spot for your data. Right now, the next step for you is to wait. Once EA prepares the data submission place, we'll reach out and let you know that that it's ready to go. They usually send an email, but those emails have typically kind of gotten lost in data or in email filters. Once that's ready to go, we will schedule a training session that'll happen probably after Easter break at some point. And then we basically are ready to go in terms of uploading that data. EA will validate it. We make any corrections. Generally, the corrections are like, you know, naming conventions, or maybe a corrupted file if it gets if the format gets changed. But it's pretty easy to troubleshoot. And so anybody that's from Tulare County is probably already checked off everything in that blue box, except for the 2021 data upload. Even if we do upload all the archival data from 2020 all the way back, you know, reaching back 3, 4, 5 years, in the fall, we'll all have a little data upload party and just make sure that everything's up to date. On the EdFi front, you should have gotten a form. I think it was like a monday.com form. But all it is asking like, who's your SIS administrator? Who's your IT person? Who's your data people? It's like, what are the names and contact info of like your key data folks? That goes to Ed Analytics. So we'll get an idea of who has and who hasn't submitted. But if you haven't submitted it, like, you could probably do it during the course of the meeting. It's a pretty short form. Then we'll try to facilitate a session, a handshake between you guys and Ed Analytics. And then from there, you'll set up a series of meetings where there's a sandbox version of your SIS that they'll help with all of this. You map the data from the SIS to the EdFi standard, and you know, set the marking periods, push the data, and then by then it should be ready to go once they do a series of troubleshooting. The nice thing is, like, once that's all done, that should just be set up in perpetuity. So now, that's not all that's going to be required of data. Obviously, this network is just getting off the ground, so there may be other ad hoc data requests. So we'll try to kind of keep tabs on that and make sure that we're set and ready to go, and that we're not surprising anybody or creating a strain on, like, you know, like adding a bunch of extra requirements to what I'm sure is an already busy and overbooked schedule. So really the only major thing that needs to happen is to fill out and submit the form from Ed Analytics. We'll connect with them and make sure that they reach out to start setting up that EdFi connection. And then if you're not already on the core dashboard, we'll kind of get that going with you guys as well. So the one thing that tends to happen is like you guys will get, you guys probably already get inundated from emails from like lots of people from lots of different places, from lots of funky email addresses. These funky email addresses are ones that you'll want to like just keep an eye out for if you ever get a message from any of these people. Obviously, Steph, you met earlier in the meeting, the network director, so you know hers are pretty important. Carolyn is essentially the majority of the messages that are going to be going out from the network. We have the 3 folks on the data team from TCOE. But on the Ed Analytics side, Charlie Hartman and Brianna Polari are the 2 lead folks kind of working on from their organization. And then on the core side, you might see some emails from Latoya Buford or Tanira. So just keep an eye out for these names specifically, but those email addresses generally. And then we will open it up to questions.
Well, if anyone doesn't have any questions, then I guess we can let you all go. I put the link to the survey into the chat, so please complete that today if you haven't already. Ed Analytics really needs that information in order to get things started, and we'd like to get moving as soon as possible. So that's your big ask for the moment, is to get that completed, and we'll go from there. We'll be in touch to set up subsequent meetings.
We want to thank you guys for joining us today. There's a lot of work to support, and we just have the fortunate task of like, you know, being the ones that help kind of work to support all of that work behind the scenes with all that data.